to be with it in terms of whatever level of nuance you're working with, so to speak, or able to assimilate or what have you. Anyway, none of that, you don't need to worry about that because it does itself, it's self-regulating. Just simply the feeling the actuality, feeling the presence of actual experience. That's all. That's the entire shooting match right there. And just that does everything. Does the entire, all the unfoldment and the nuance and the integration and the whole process is just from that. So even if you have been approaching this kind of stuff or working with me for years and years and years, still your cutting edge is still right here. Always right here. So there's no, not like, oh, I've heard all this before. When's the next level of retreat going to be? Okay. It's just not, that's really quite irrelevant. And not that these retreats or meetings or anything are important either at all, except, of course, to the extent you find them interesting and valuable or what have you. But it's really just all about individually, you, yourself, feeling the presence of your own actuality. And that does everything. That's the magic key that does the entirety of spiritual unfoldment. Kind of nice that it's so simple. And it turns out to be a lot of fun, because as you begin to play with this, the nuance and subtlety and the trippiness and trickiness and weirdness and entertainment value of what this is and the way it is just endlessly, unfolds and reveals itself and magnifies itself, and this is like, wow, I knew this was good, but that's even better. So, why don't we play with that? So please, just relax. Don't try and do anything, try not to do anything. Be comfortable. We'll do a little 15-minute, 20-minute experiment, whatever. So just get yourself comfy and cozy, and just relax, and just feel the presence of your experience. You don't have to have your eyes closed. Don't have to not have them closed. Doesn't matter at all. Let them be open, let them be closed, whatever. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Just feel what is here, just the way it is, just right now, just this, just feel it. Just feel it. There's something here, isn't it? This is something. Feel what this is. And notice how the mind goes to this or that, the aspect of what's here. But it's still here. It's here. Feel it. Feel that it is here. Notice how quick and mercurial it is, the attention to it dances from this subtlety to that subtlety to that subtlety, very unstably. But it's always just this right here. If your eyes are closed, try opening your eyes. Sit with your eyes open for a bit. If your eyes are open, try closing your eyes and sit with your eyes closed for a bit. And just feel what's here. Feel what's here. Don't worry about if your tendency to go to this point of focus or that point of focus. Don't worry about it. That just comes with it. If it's like that, then that's what it looks like. Just feel it. Feel what's here. It's exactly the way it happens to be. Notice how what's here puts itself here. It's spontaneous. You don't need to do anything about it. You don't need to put it here. You can't take it away if you wanted to. It's just completely effortlessly, completely spontaneously, intrinsically present. Just this presence that is here. Just however it happens to appear. Just feel it. You can feel it. If you feel it, you'll notice you can feel it. It is something. You can't tell what it is, but it's something. It's not nothing, is it? It's something here. What does actuality feel like? What does this presence right here feel like? Just relax, don't do anything special. Move around, shift in your chair. Be loose and easy. This is not about holding yourself or being poised or anything. Doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter what you don't do. Because how can you possibly leave this present? How can what you do or don't do make this any more or less present? How is this here? How is this actuality here? You can't answer that question, but you can feel it. How is it here? Where does it come from? What's the name with your eyes open for a while? Don't worry about what you look at. Your gaze might travel around. You'll notice this and notice that. Doesn't matter. Notice how whatever you're looking at, it is this here. Feel that presence. Feel the presence of whatever you're seeing. It's the same presence of you as you hear these sounds. The same presence as you feel your butt on the chair, feel your body. Same presence as these thoughts appear and drift through your mind. Feel your mind, feel what your thoughts are made of. What are they made of? They're made of something. You wouldn't, if there wasn't something there, you wouldn't know you're thinking. There's something there when you're thinking. What is it that's there? What's thought made of? What's the substance of thought? What are you feeling when you feel thought? Notice how the attention floats around and drifts around spontaneously, in very strange ways. If you look very closely, you can't even tell what you're paying attention to, what you're focusing on. It's very slippery, very, very slippery, isn't it? Feel the way that's so. What's that sound made of? What's sound made of? All these different frequencies, all these different textures, all just floating here. Light floating here, sound floating here, touch floating here. Where are they? Where's these different senses, these different sense fields floating? Where are they located? What are they sitting on? What space are they in? Where's your thinking happening? Don't think about it. Just feel it. Feel where it's happening. Feel where your vision is happening. What relationship is your vision and your thinking to each other? Where are they? Are they close or are they far? It's actuality always right here. All these different textures and frequencies, qualities. It was right here, right now. Without any effort. ignore them, they don't go away. You can look really closely at them, you don't get any clues. What does it feel like? What does actuality feel like? How do you know this is present? How do you know experience is present? What do you feel when you feel the presence of experience? Attention floats around, thought comes in and goes, sound comes in and goes, attention wanders to this and that. All right here, right now, in this presence. Feel it? Can you feel this presence? What does presence feel like? It's not nothing, is it? Presence is something. Feel it and let it show you what it is by feeling. It talks to you, it communicates, it has a flavor, it has a profundity to it. Just feel that and let it download it to you. No matter where your attention wanders, it's present, isn't it? Right where it is, right here. Right here looks like all of this, doesn't it? Everything comes with. It never becomes anything else than this right here. Whatever it looks like. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Can't get a handle on it. Can't find it. It's just weird. And yet here it is. Nothing but. Feel this actuality? Just feel it, easy. Just let it be however it is. Be loose, be easy. Relax, flow, move. You don't need to hold anything still. You can't lose it, so you don't need to hold it. Just feel it. It's right here to feel anytime you want. Just feel it. It's rich. It's luscious. Just loose and easy, just let it go. Let it go, and here it is. Just let it go and you're feeling it. Does this feel like anything? This feels like itself, doesn't it? It's like this, it is here. It's like always. It always looks different in every way. It's always exactly the same. It changes it. What is it? What is this you're feeling? What is it that's here? Explore it by braille. Feel what it is. You can't get closer to it. Can't get farther from it. Always right here. Wherever the attention drifts, right here. Feel how this is real. Feel how this is really here. How is this actual? How is this real? Feel how you know it's real. What does reality feel like? What does realness feel like? What does actuality feel like? This is it. Feel it. What's the feeling? You hang on to it. You can lose it if you want to. When you look for it, it never goes away. You're always feeling nothing but it, even when you're not feeling it. That's feeling it too. Funny, eh? This is the yoga of radiant presence. Just what is right here, being what it is. You being here. This being here. It's the only thing that ever happens. It looks however it looks, but it's always exactly the same thing. You here. Is it ever not you here? How could that happen? It's always here. Always looks different. It's always right here, isn't it? And you can't not feel it. Actuality is a full contact sport. Presence is completely engaged with itself, just by being. It feels, every bit of it feels every bit of it. Can't possibly not. You can't leave it, you can't go to it. Can't change it, can't make it increase, can't make it decrease. Interesting, eh? Sometimes you can try these kind of experiments where you just sit with this and deliberately feel it like that. And other times you can just, just be going about your business and notice, oh gosh, is this present? Is this actual? And even if you're not trying to, here it is. It's always available, never goes away. So it doesn't need anything special to approach it. It doesn't need any prerequisite. You don't need to be still or not be still. You don't need to be not busy or be busy. It just doesn't matter. Whatever is happening, whatever degree your engagement seems to be, is always just exactly this presence. So you can be busy or you can be sitting quietly. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It never goes away. So this is always right here to play with whenever you feel like it. And the amazing thing about this exploration is it's cumulative. Every time you feel this, it grows. Your subtlety of being able to be with it multiplies. Always cumulative. It's like putting money in a piggy bank. Once a penny's in that bank, it ain't coming out, it's staying there. And so it builds on itself, So even if you just play with this stuff once every blue moon and otherwise you're just wandering around lost in your life, it's like normal. It doesn't matter, because still, every time you play with this, every time you feel this, it adds. And there's no limit to how intimately and how astoundingly it can reveal itself. And just down to your ongoing engagement with it. So this is yoga gradient presence. Fun and easy. Organic, calorie-free, and highly intoxicating. Or not.
So I just need to clear something up. When you say, what are you feeling? I'm finding a confusion between sensation feeling, hot, warm, or emotion feeling, peaceful, sad, and I'm not sure.
Then but in that case, what you're feeling is confusion between those presences that you're qualifying as being this and that.
Yeah.
That's what you're feeling.
But I just thought, if we could just clear that up.
There's no clearing up?
Yeah, I know, because it's like, the mind wants to say, well, which one am I supposed to be paying attention to?
You're supposed.
Okay.
Doesn't
I
matter.
knew you were going to say that.
Doesn't matter. There's no wrong way.
So whatever's there is the feeling.
Whatever's there, feel it.
Okay.
And in the process of feeling what's there, you'll learn how to feel what's there. It's subtle.
Can you say that again?
In the process of feeling what's there, you will learn how to feel what's there. It reveals itself. It shows you how to do it by doing. It's an art in a way. Being with yourself, being with your own actuality is an art, and it teaches itself through practice. And the mode of engagement is attention, but not a conscious attention or an analytical attention, but an attention of just engagement. Just feel what's there. It's a good way to notice that engagement. And of course, it's all very paradoxical because that engagement is already always happening. So you're not doing something you weren't already doing, you're just simply noticing And the noticing may seem like a doing. And it may or may not actually be a doing, but that doesn't make any sense, so you don't need to make sense of it. It's not about making sense. Very soon you leave the realm where anything makes any sense at all. So that becomes a non-issue. Yes?
Just what you just said about making sense. So, like when I'm in nature, it just seems so much more available
Sure.
to notice. And
Sure.
so, I'm having like hallucinatory stuff, like
Sure.
being on acid.
Absolutely.
What I remember, and that's been a long time.
Memories, I've heard tell.
No, really, like
I've heard
things are
people say.
shimmering and vibrating
Yeah.
and colors
Yeah.
and
Isn't that
it's
something?
bizarre. And if I hadn't met you, I would just think, it's some weird fluke in my brain, like this is not, something's not right, and I would just take myself out of it, I think. But I'm kind of letting myself experience it,
Sure.
and it doesn't. You can't hang on to it once you try. It like goes, and then you can't get it back. Like you can't let me put myself in the same situation and look at water, or look at whatever. And, it doesn't work that way.
It's like water. It's not going to flow back the same way again.
Right, and then I keep
Never repeats.
thinking of you
Always
saying,
indeed.
like, is the noticing to notice that everything is more indifferent? Like you could look at things one way and then they could look completely different. Like
Always.
not even, you don't even know what you're looking at anymore.
Always. There's no way that it just actually is. This doesn't resolve to any particular way. There's no way that this
There's
is.
no final. There's no
No. The final is that there's a certain and true discovery that there is no final. That's the final.
Right.
The
Yeah,
final
nothing resolves.
is eternal and absolute lack of resolution.
Yeah.
Eternal surprise, eternal spontaneity, eternal joy, eternal bliss, eternal meaningfulness, eternal profundity, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, this can look, when you start being with your experience the way it is and learn to be with it artfully, learn to really let it go, it can look really weird. You can have all sorts of hallucinations and little, just weird frizzles and colors and thinking bizarre. It can look like anything. When I say it can look like anything, I mean anything. But it doesn't matter. Because whatever it looks like, what is it? Just feel what it is. And that's the important point. It shows you what it is by being with it. Not that you ever get what it is, you can never say what it is. But in its own terms, it shows you what it is and how to be what it is that you already are and always have been.
And that's another thing, when you say you can't say what it is, like sometimes it'll be like, not a visual thing, but like there'll just be this flash of like there's this expansion and it feels like you understand everything, but not conceptually, like you just have a felt sense of, and there's like this relaxation but it's like just instantaneous and then it goes. And then you can't even really like write it down even because it's not,
Sure,
because I have a friend saying, oh, you should write it down. And I'm like, I don't even know how to do that.
It can look like that. It can look like anything. But how it looks is
But
not important.
Does
What
that
it is
still
what's important.
accumulate even if you don't even know what's going on?
What,
Like you say, like it,
what's cumulative is your profundity and subtlety of being with it, i.e. its profundity and subtlety of being with itself. But what that happens to resolve into in terms of apparition, all bets are off. Sky's the limit. And it's not important. The point is it's not important what it looks like or doesn't look like. It's what it is that's important. And what it looks like is intrinsically what it is as well, but in a funny way. Not in a way where the mind tries to make sense of it. What it's made out of is what is the meaning. I don't know if you guys remember the old pop philosopher from the 60s, Marshall McLuhan, who said the medium is the message. in this, that is 100% true. It's what experience is that is the message, not what it looks like. What it looks like is not the message. It's what it's made out of is the message, what it is.
So,
That's why you feel, yeah, it's not the content.
Right.
Although the content is it too. So it's not the content,
Right.
but it's not the content.
Right.
It's what it is. So it, always just feel what it is. And you'll never get to a bottom. What it is bottomless, but it's totally accessible. So you feel what it is, that's it. But that's not the end of it. That's just the beginning, and it has no end. So that's the yoga. It's just falling endlessly into it.
And it can just occur incrementally, like
Yeah.
just once in a while, or it
It doesn't matter.
whatever. Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's down to your own karma, so to speak, or
Yeah.
temperament, or what have you. I mean, some people are, just crazy gung ho with this stuff, and other people are very frivolous. But even that is no indication of how, quote unquote, rapidly you'll proceed. There's no control over that. But once you open that door, that all takes care of itself. So you don't come worrying about it.
Yeah, there's no going back.
Yeah.
It's sad.
So you just play with it. You just play with it any way that seems right to you, and you'll find your own everything. It shows you how to do it.
Yeah.
As soon as you touch it, that's it. You don't need instruction or me or logic or explanations or anything. Just feel it, and it shows you how to feel it.
Well,
It's
it's
an
seductive
entirely-
in a way,
Huh?
It's kind of seductive.
That's totally seductive. I mean, it's fun. It's entertaining. It's interesting. It's stimulating.
What's seductive?
Check it out. See if you find it seductive. Maybe you'll disagree.
Peter,
Yes.
how much is your brain involved or not involved? And where I'm coming from is in being with my aunt with Alzheimer's.
Yes.
Her brain did not know who I was,
Right.
but her awareness was totally there.
Of course.
And we recognized that.
Of course.
And so you don't necessarily need your brain.
No.
So to me,
Which is why, when you die, you don't have your body anymore. You discover you didn't need it. You can discover that now before you die too. And you will if you play with this stuff ongoing. The brain and the personality and the conscious mind are sub-mechanisms within radiant presence. And radiant presence is doing them, but they are dependent upon the radiant presence. The radiant presence is not dependent upon them. So radiant presence exists within your brain and your body, but radiant presence exists outside your brain and your body. And you are not your brain and your body, you are the radiant presence, literally. So the consciousness that you are fills all of reality, is all of reality. And within this apparition of your individual incarnation and your personality and your brain and blah, 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 and body and all that is appearing. I'm not going to say it's even necessarily there, but it's appearing as if it was there. And it can appear to function, and it can appear to have maladies, and it can appear to, have dysfunction, and all of that stuff can appear, but none of it affects the radiant presence. The radiant presence is just the milieu and the mechanism and the actuality that enables that to seem to be that way. And you are that, but you're more than that, you're the whole thing. So you are your body and your mind, but you're more than your body and your mind. And in some old Indian philosophies, they said space inside the jar is inside the jar, but the same space is also outside the jar. So yeah, you're in your body, you're in your mind, but you're also outside your body, outside your mind. And inside and outside aren't ultimately relevant designators, because it's not spatial. Space appears because of radiant presence. Radiant presence is within space. Think of a dream. When you start dreaming, all of a sudden you might be in a space. You might be in a street or a building or in a room, and so there's a space there in the dream, and the dream may take place in the space and all that. But then the dream goes away, and you wake up, and where was the space that appeared in the dream? You dreamt it. The dream creates the space doesn't create the dream. This space that you seem to be in here now is exactly the same way. The radiant presence is projecting this space as a virtual reality. If you went to sleep right now, this space would disappear utterly. There'd be a sort of a non-space, deep sleep space or whatever. It's probably what it is, but this would be gone. So this is not an objective reality. It's a subjective partiality because of radiant presence, because of your experience.
So, so could it be that when people have experiences with their loved ones that have passed on, that they're actually operating still in the consciousness or the awareness of that family member?
Yes, except there never was a them and there never was a you. All there is information, and all information is the totality of the radiant presence. So nothing is lost, but there is no thing here. There's no parts here. Which doesn't invalidate you or your relations or what have you, but it puts the context of what that actually is. You and your relations are like readouts of something that is utterly beyond the way they seem to be. And the actual relationship of that readout with itself, of the actual condition with itself, is utterly different than the way the readouts seem to be. In the same sense that space, which seems to be here, is just a readout of something which is absolutely non-spatial. And yet because of that non-spatiality, the space can appear and be actual. Like you could say, because of the dreamer's dreaming, the dream can appear and be an actual dream. But the dream is a symptom of something else, but the something else doesn't look exactly the way the dream looks. What it is not dependent upon what it looks like, what its readout is. Don't worry about trying to make sense of this stuff, because it makes no sense. The main thing is just
Making
feel.
no sense is pretty easy for me.
Cool. You're lucky. Go ahead again.
I think my confusion with all of this is I was thinking I should be making sense of it, and today I got a third of it. I'm on that track again.
Yeah.
But
But it doesn't need to not make sense. And if it seems to make sense, that doesn't matter, that's cool too. Intellect is
it's
fascinating.
whatever happens.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter. But what it actually is independent of whether or not it's making sense.
Just one other thing that keeps circling for me is even what you heard about the pineal gland and that opening, and that when it opens it can no longer shut, and that appears to be what happens when people awaken. And I don't know if they can, I know they check out different yogis, their brain scan and all that, and they're operating in a different place. Would that be true of this, or this is just different?
Even if that was the case, it wouldn't necessarily mean that it's a causal relationship. You understand what I mean? In other words, even if certain people exhibit certain physiology, doesn't mean that exhibiting the physiology is the cause of some subjective condition. It's the other way around. What your brain seems to be doing is a symptom of what's really happening, not the other way around.
And so when you had said one time that you asked about what happened to you physically, you said your body really changed, that you walked differently, that something happened physiologically, that what you're saying is where it came, it didn't come from your brain, it was coming from change.
Everything that appears is a symptom of what's actually going on. And what's actually going on, you can't tell what's actually going on by looking at what the symptoms are, by what the readout is. You can't tell what a dreamer is by looking at a dream. Particularly the dream. The more general you get in looking, the more you can tell. When you look at dreaming, then you can tell. Like in this experiment when we're playing with this yoga, when I say feel the fact of experiencing, feel what experiencing is, You're being with it more very generally. You're not being with it, well, I'm experiencing this, or I'm experiencing that, or I'm seeing this, or you're not with the this, and the that. You're cutting it more radically to the more fundamental event. And the more you do that, the more upstream you are in terms of what's actually going on versus the symptoms of the relapse. None of this makes any sense, and the language isn't important. It is not accurate, but that's a given. No language is accurate. That's part of the problem. It's not describable in the first place, so don't worry about the fact that it's not describable.
So when you're talking, don't you really talking to that other aspect of oneself, that aspect?
That's the only thing that's here. That's what I'm talking to.
No brain.
The other aspect that you may think is there isn't really there, so why would I talk to it?
Why not?
I'd have to be pretending to talk to it. So I know it's not there.
The subject of language, current experience of it has been in a place where we're talking, pulled me into back in.
Sure.
Is that also cumulatively resolve itself?
Yeah. Talking becomes less and less of an issue one way or the other. Because things tend to dichotomize less and less. Where they seem to be mutually exclusive or seem to be opposites of each other, where it seems to be either this or that. And all of that stuff sort of gets a little fuzzy, gets progressively more and more fuzzy, more and more relevant. Because in actuality, there's no dichotomy whatsoever. There's no part of this that is at all separate from any other part of this, and there's nothing but this. So ultimately, language is this and non-language is this. Making sense is this and not making sense is this. Rationality is this and irrationality is this, and there's no dichotomy at all. But to see the way in which that's so, you need to be with what this is, which is what we're talking about, playing with that. Growing into that by progressively, maybe relatively, by feeling, by being with it directly rather than being with it through the surrogate of our mental projections. In actuality, all human beings are actually already doing this, but it's very inefficient doing it through mental concepts, doing it related to experience by relating to interpretive frameworks, which most human beings do, is actually it's actually reality exploring itself. But it's a relatively inefficient, indirect way to go. What we're doing here is learning a more radical, more efficient mode of engagement. When you bypass all that stuff, you don't shut it down. It's not the opposite of that. You just let it go, whether it's there or not.
My awareness that language almost like ties me into an interpretive practice.
Right.
I'm speaking, I'm giving it form.
Right. It's seductive. There's a tendency to give it credence into
Right.
the important. Yeah. But that all takes care of itself. Yeah. The main thing is nothing is off the table. Nothing is forbidden. So by all means, be with your experience as best you can. And if your normal modes of coping with the things you're dealing with, by all means, cope with them. But this simultaneously, concurrently with that, adds a secret ingredient to the whole thing. But it's not like do that, don't do anything else. It's not like become a dysfunctional zombie and just sit there doing that all the time. But by all means, live your life, be functional, cope as best you can, deal with your problems or not, whatever, it's like business as usual.
Well, it's like when you're doing exercise, and that I can, get it. But then speaking, suddenly it's hard for me to kind of be in that awareness when I'm speaking because I'm
Don't worry about it. Don't try and cling to anything. You don't need to hold on to being in this some awareness. Whatever awareness you go into, that's it, too. Just feel whatever's there. I mean, let yourself go totally into the verbal awareness and then feel what's there. And you'll be right back into presence. There's no dichotomy at all. The mind can't wrap itself around that. It keeps trying to think, oh, there's some opposition here, there's some polarization, but it's not actually like that at all. But even if the mind thinks that, that's not important. That's cool too. If your mind wants to play tug-of-war games with itself, that's fine. You don't have to be. That's the nice thing about this yoga. You don't have to be sane. You don't have to make sense. You don't have to be internally consistent. You don't have to fix your personality and start doing everything right. You can just be your normal, sloppy self flailing through your life. It's all good.
You mentioned that when you're in perspective,
Yes.
if there is an actual contortion field or something
Yeah.
because of that.
Yes. But don't worry about that. That's not something that you should try and remedy or even to notice.
Wouldn't it help to somehow consciously relax that field instead of
Yes, except the most efficient way to consciously relax that is to feel the presence of presence. That is relaxing. Because,
that you
this is, what this is, you have to discover it. It's very subjective, and there's no way to talk about it objectively. You discover this very personally. Subtle energy orientation. I mean, you start spouting New Age gibberish trying to talk about this stuff. But relaxing, opening, is a subtle energy position. Tightening, orienting is also a subtle energy position. And I'm using positioning sort of loosely metaphorically. It's as if, imagine there's a hyperspatial, like a fourth dimensional body that you have, and you're invisible in three-dimensional experience. But all three-dimensional experience is like shadows cast by this body. So your three-dimensional experience looks a certain way if it's situated like this. And if it's just like that, all of a sudden the three-dimensional experience looks different. But since you can't see that, it just looks like two different states. So likewise, you may have a kind of a fixation on things one way, and you may have a kind of an opening and looseness another way. And it just sort of looks like two conditions, whereas it actually may be just sort of a different stance of one condition. So it's kind of like that. Not literally like that. That's just sort of a metaphor. But it's not about, the most efficient way to do that is not to try to approach that. You approach that most directly through exactly what I'm suggesting. By feeling presence, you are going to the very core of your being. And attending to the very core of your being is radically integrated. Just doing that automatically, completely it evolves you, it ties you, the fullness of your being together, very directly and not permanently. So this kind of this feeling the presence of being is it seems like almost nothing, but it's unspeakably profound and unspeakably primal and powerful in every way.
It's the that seems to answer something I was pondering, which is what is that thing at the core that is just so sweet and sublime, regardless of circumstance.
That's what you are.
And is it that integrative quality?
Many people have called this God, people have called this Atman, people have called this, the guardian angel. There's all different sorts of mythologies and poetry about it. But it's unimportant trying to define it. The thing is, it's actual.
Yes.
And it's accessible and available because it's what all this actually is. So when you feel the presence of this, you actually come very directly to feel that much more naked. Should we take 5 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes? And walk around, have some tea, do some jumping jacks, pick a fight, have a scotch.
You got it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I like that.
Who's out there? Oh, there's Peter and John. So all of the, where's the fan? There was a fan. Over there on the floor.
You notice that kind of thing very quickly. You notice the way in which experience actually presents in all sorts of moments that we're not used to acknowledging because we basically suppress them, suppress our awareness of them because we're focusing on what we're supposed to present. In actuality, the field of experience is a sea of seeming qualities, most of which make absolutely no sense at all. Analysis is far. And all of this becomes very apparent. So the amount of experience that actually makes sense that you've been talking about is minuscule compared to this astounding genre of other lives and qualities.
Like gluten free.
No.
What's the name of the place? That's like the superhero of. What are you doing? I can't believe Steve. What's the fear stand there? I just during lunch break, you get home, you know, she was in here. I turned on the bathroom fan, and they're leaving the door.
Lucy's a big fan of yours.
So if we leave the door open and the fan turned on, oh, man, it's like not working it. And now that I've opened these, that's gonna let some of the hot air. Would you feel it? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because there's no way to open anything up there.
That's crazy.
Oh, yeah, he was sitting over there. He was, oh, Stephen has been there
My
then.
neighbors came over and they go, somebody move around. I said, no.
Oh, no, he's not there now.
Obviously, he's
Very elusive. Doesn't want anybody putting him to work, perhaps.
We have ice.
Oh, so
White girl.
thank you so much. That's really kind.
I'm in here and they're like having kids.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the bees. Well, I love the bees.
So there's something psychological crisis.
When they're done. I'm wearing
Some people
baggy
are sort of
stuff.
talking about it in psychology and my fields.
Yeah.
Being authentic, being here now. I
Well,
think
maybe
I'm
that'll
probably
be
agree
good
with
for
this.
because I mean, I went to
There's
college
a
12
fair amount of
years.
reports about how
They
we're
tried to
really
make
trying to
us
do
about we were free.
enrollment. It's going to be exhausting for something.
I know.
When I was in
He did that for me. It's what I did now so hard. I had no option but to push.
being ready all the
I
time,
think that's
you couldn't do it. You start to sort of so.
You know this area really well.
And yet you would think that
It's a nice neighborhood.
being,
So what area of
you know, aware of noticing shouldn't take extra energy to sort of see
But
that.
it's really close.
Well, it doesn't when you get, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
Because at first, you're doing what typically one does what they think is noticing, which is too much work, it doesn't need to be done. Noticing is really noticing that noticing is always happening. So noticing is noticing the effortless presence of reality, which of course requires no effort at all. It doesn't never go away. And it notices itself. So, when we're being in the more beginning phases, we think we have to do the noticing. We have to do the attention being present. So there's an extra component of, sort of doing something. Yeah, exactly. Superfluous and non-essential. So it's not important because eventually you learn by doing it. And of course, it's like doing anything. When you do something ongoingly, you learn how to do it easy. Yeah. Like if you ride a bike or something, when you're first learning to ride a bike, you must be around, so eventually it just goes along. You learn it. Just participation in doing it teaches you the most efficient way to do it. And noticing is just like that. So at first, everyone does it too hard. And the whole trick of noticing is learning how to do it. You can't not do it. But you can't get there until you discover that you are there. So, and you discover that you are there by trying to be there. Which of course at first overshoots it. So it's all just a matter of play with it and it refines itself by participation. But the presence that matters, the attention that matters is the presence and attention which is inalienable. You don't have to do it. The presence which is present, whether you're present or not.
Hey, man, this is good. This is, I finally heard your voice message.
And the more clearly you come to that, then the more it's like related to the word.
And so we should get together and talk about
But it's organic participation, so it doesn't it's like you're getting used to something. When you're newborn, you're a baby and you can't do shit. And after 10 years, you can function fairly well and walk and run and talk and do things. And then another 10 years, you can function even better, maybe. But it takes a while. I mean, it can take a while. Some people might be prodigies in this but not necessarily. It has its own the main thing is just playing with it. If you play with it ongoingly, whatever way you feel drawn to,
At another point, you come up once every other month.
Yeah.
You come up for a day.
Yeah, I've been doing basically a day log every other month is what I've been doing this last year. As far as I know, I'll be continuing.
Are you staying with Peter? Are you staying with Peter?
No, well, right this time we're staying in a hotel because we're staying extra because we're doing a stay for the whole week afterwards, just a little vacation, right? So we'll be in town. Ordinarily when I come up here, I usually stay with Steven, the guy, I don't know if you met him, the guy who, right here, the guy in shorts, he's right there, he's checking off the list.
Okay.
We can go there. We can start there.
Well,
Because he lives in the neighborhood that has a spare room, he's a bachelor, so it's easy. Perfect. And I usually come up and find alone, so I just stay with him. I just come up for the night of the day, and it's, she came up to the one sightseeing stuff, and it's frankly more worth it. It's less work for me to just come up the day before I spend the night and then do this and fly out the same day.
When these times you come up, you can, if you want to find a place to stay, hang out.
Oh, cool. Look at that. You have space?
Yeah, we have another.
That's very sweet.
Downtown, so the scenery will be different.
Yeah. How's the place? You happy with yourself?
Yeah, I'm very happy with it.
I love Seattle. Yeah. Michael used to live in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
I didn't see him for a few years. I was up here. I've seen him
I
here.
know. It's great. Get rid of me. Okay, great. I'll see you in a little bit.
Thanks a lot.
But then also because you're.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
They kind of will. Because what the way it works is, starting
Yeah, well, he doesn't have to solidified by himself. Yeah, so sure. Stephen. Yeah. How far away are you from here?
It's about 20 minutes. We've been
Oh, yeah.
after the first.
I don't know where Stephen lives. I thought he lived in this neighborhood, but I don't know. Like it's Seattle. Is it taking you a long time to get to know the area? I mean, you haven't been here that long yet.
This house that we wanted into seems to retain the name. It's really good.
Yeah. And then there's shops nearby. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh my God, that's not good. But it is nice that you can walk to the grocery store or the pharmacy or whatever you need, and in the winter it might be a whole nother thing when it starts raining and it's just cold and snowy and awful. But if you're wearing galoshes and you got a good raincoat umbrella, you don't need anything.
That's the way of nature. I mean, it's.
No, I noticed that. I noticed that sometimes I see someone got an umbrella. They are not supposed to have like that. Yeah,
Probably two.
well, that's it. Well, that's it. Well, it's rain, so it needs something anywhere. You need well, okay, I didn't say the Midwest. Yeah. Midwest,
People find
yeah.
their way back.
I've lived
Seems
there.
like someone get answers.
It rains all the time.
Sometimes it makes
It can rain in
sense.
the winter, except for maybe
But
Florida.
like structure this mess is most closely approximates the way things actually work. So I like to.
If it's not raining, it's snow or sleet.
Which now is starting.
Well, did you? Oh, yeah? Yeah, so the Midwest gets a lot of rain.
I'm playing a lot of music. I'm playing Sarangi like a little person. That's what I do these days. Like, well, you guys are really interested in it, but I know you guys.
Yeah, that looks like a really tough instrument.
Oh, we
It's not learning
have
curve.
thundercloud this year, here in
First of all, it's my first boat instrument, so like that. And then the technique of it is weird because you play with the side of your fingers, which is weird. Oh, there's other strings running underneath the plate. Yeah, so it's got a guitar technique physically. And then
Wait, how does it on the side of your finger?
you slide the top of your finger. Some players do it with the string above the nail. Some people do it with the nail right with just below the seam. I do it on the nail. I don't know if you know
Oh,
Ballin
yeah,
guitar, play
kiss your ass for
guitar.
mine.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I know. That's true. Well, I like hurricane, I saw.
Another aspect of it is intonation of the pitch, of course, because the full scale is only very small. And you've got like 2 octaves here, so you hit the upper octave, you have an octave there. And so the difference between, the 3rd and the 5th is like that much, and the difference between the 3rd and the 4th is like that much. You gotta hit it spot on. You hit it a little bit off and it completely sucks. I mean, it's just really
You need to just
blows.
tell people that, you just don't know that wrong.
They're not like George Harrison.
That one deals with that.
I'm more of an obsessive maniac. I bust my ass to get this spot on. I'm actually getting it too, it's very exciting. I was taking a few years now, I was continually, you do it badly till you, eventually you do it better.
Peter and I often thought, ooh, let's go.
What is that?
Because I play on the nail, it doesn't do
Oh,
much.
you play on the note.
Yeah, like right there, like on the nail, just below the cuticle, is where the string hits. And that'll actually wear grooves in the nail, I'll wear through it.
It's like somebody who
But-
sails around the world a lot and
No, the plant strings are gut. They're
They are
very
gut.
thick, very thick gut. All the other strings are metal. Mostly steel and a few bronze. But mostly
Climbers is the same thing,
mostly
right?
steel. But the three plant strings are gut and they're very, very thick.
But I think for the
They're
people
like,
like
I mean, the low string is like that.
Oh my goodness.
it's like not for
Yeah. And they're so thick in their gut, so they're opaque. I mean, you're plucking and it sounds like you're plucking a table. You know, something
What is
like-
the tuning?
Huh?
What is the tuning?
Well, the tuning's very standard for Indian instruments. It's sa pa sa. So
Okay.
they tune it to an octave with a fifth in between.
Yeah.
And then, so most of the playing is on the high string.
And then you learn.
There's 2 octaves of usable, and you can get a few extra notes on top of that on the high string. And then if 1 octave below that, it's a low string.
And I only need to do it once. For me, a lot of things are just a one-time thing and so that's
It sounds like so beautiful.
Oh, that's the thing, if you do it right,
Yeah.
it's like a choir of angels singing. It's the most exquisite tone.
I know, it really
It just
is.
melts my heart. It's the most lovely instrument I've ever heard.
It's really, I mean, it's part of that big mystery is what we resonate with. Like some people don't just, you know, I mean, for some people it's a tune, you know?
I first heard Samani and Sergeant Pepper's in the late 60s. And I was like, what is that?
The thing you would that you did it this year, yeah.
I think I believe it's Sulfide Company. It's based in the book behind that.
But for years, I thought that was a violin.
I know, right?
You know? I thought that was a
That's
violin.
like a weird effect of violin.
Well, I looked into it enough to find out what it was. And I said, wow, this is incredible. I gotta tune it on. I'd love to be able to play that. And then I actually, a couple of years later, I saw my first Sirlani. But it was just in like an Indian import store, and there wasn't anyone who knew how to play it. And I was looking at this, and it was the most bizarre torture machine I've ever seen. Does anyone get music out of this thing? I mean, what do you do with this? All these strings running every which way, and it's tiny, and it's heavy, and you bow it. And I just couldn't imagine trying to play it.
and then something stays
And
and
then,
fall over. And
Is it fretless?
oh, you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's your fret.
There's your fret. There's your fret. Put it where you put it right in the right place. Exactly.
Wow.
And surprisingly, you can. Surprisingly, you can actually notes pretty true. It takes a while to learn it out.
Well, I'm a bass player, right?
Oh, yeah. Play fretboard.
I've tried. And it's murder.
You just never got a hardest experience.
Yeah, I just never got over the dependency on frets. Because I come from a guitar player.
Yeah, put your time in it.
I tried acoustic stand-up as well. It's absolutely true. You gotta have a great sense of music, and you have to have really quick ability to move to the pitch.
You learn how to do it. But you definitely have to. If you never decide that anyway, you gotta have. If you don't have a good ear, you shouldn't be playing either. It's all you gotta do. If you don't hear it, you can't do it.
And you gotta feel it.
Yeah, that's it. Otherwise, it's
Yeah.
music. It's calisthenics.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of guys, it's really interesting you should say that. There are plenty of guys out there that sort of treat it. Including some guys that I happen to really like, but it's more this technocratic sort of appreciation of the we're able to mechanically jam a whole bunch of notes in a really short period of space. I've got kind of a technical appreciation for how to say
But Indian music particularly is like that. Because it's got all of this functional nuance. And there's all these snobs.
Oh, big time.
You know, there's all these snobs that that's what it's all about. But the real musicians,
massage
You
hands.
take it out like that's a white guy.
I mean, I don't have much stress.
My question was if he is.
Well, I'm gonna write that you stayed for a minute, and he stayed for I access and not bring back anything that I have to write off.
Information freak that's going to be just like, trying to boost my ego by.
Yeah, I'd love to hear the stories about that. I've heard a few.
No, it was, that wasn't me.
She went and started fruit too.
And it is beautiful.
We're starting!
Okay, I started.
By the power vested in me, such as it is. So welcome back. Let's see, what was I going to talk about? Something. What was I going to talk about? Oh, no, hang on. I'll talk about something sooner or later. Yes. Miss.
I have
What's
a
your name
thought,
again?
I forget who it was who had been talking about it with you before, but there was something that was being mentioned about when thinking comes up, and you were giving the yoga of paying attention to whatever comes into your experience.
Right.
But the minute you become aware that you're thinking instead of noticing, you're actually noticing you're thinking. Otherwise, how would you know you were thinking?
Of course.
And the same thing is, there's an awareness that's always there. And so to think that thinking or thoughts are not noticing is erroneous. Because the minute you notice you're thinking, what do you think you're doing?
Good, because that actually segues into, I remembered what I was going to talk about, but I forgot.
We're guys forget.
You and me. So,
My kids covered.
Attention is a funny thing, because attention is always doing itself. You wouldn't be experiencing your experience if attention wasn't experiencing your experience. Okay, you can feel like you're totally distracted in the space case and not paying attention to anything, but in actual fact, you wouldn't be experiencing anything if there wasn't attention there. Attention is experience. Attention and experience are one and the same. So the attention that matters, the attention that noticing is about, is the spontaneous intention, the inherent intention of experience itself, that's always ongoing. It's not an attention that you need to somehow do or you can somehow not do. It's not an attention that requires effort or concentration or even, presence is not something you need to do. Presence is something that you can't possibly erase if you wanted to, and it's just simply noticing that fact, which requires zero effort, because it is a fact, and you are in fact already noticing it, because here it is. I mean, even if you're not noticing, you're noticing. You can effortlessly just say, oh yeah, this is here all right. Sure enough, experience is present, isn't it? And it doesn't take, there's no like, let me see, yeah, it's present. Yeah. You don't have to do it, you don't have to churn it out. It's not a matter of effort or intention or focus or holding. It's just noticing is a completely effortless observation of what happens to already be the case spontaneously.
It's like just looking at your blue t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. Or not looking at the blue t-shirt.
Right.
Is it
Not
too?
looking at it,
Whatever.
not looking at it.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it's sort of, I mean, it's all very paradoxical, of course, because again, it's endlessly weird, it doesn't make any sense, so don't worry about that. But just, again, it sort of feeds on itself. So having noticed that presence is present, and having noticed that it is present on its own, it doesn't require it to be done, it's spontaneously present. The more you do that, the more available it becomes to notice that fact. So again, it feeds on itself. And you've already done it. So It's a done deal. So again, all of this, and when you're first playing with this, it's always a tendency to overdo. It's easy to approach it too heavy-handedly, and you try and do something, or you're trying to not do something, or you're this or you're that, or you're sort of awkwardly being with it in various ways, which is unnecessary. It's fine, but it doesn't hurt anything, but it's unnecessary. It's more effort than is needed. And as you become more skilled and more familiar with this intrinsic presence, you get more and more profoundly how it's doing itself. You don't have to do shit. It's here, present, and noticing that it's here, present, even if you're not. Because you're not being present is its being present. You're not noticing it is it's noticing itself. And this becomes more and more obvious and more clear as you play with this stuff. But the point being, the attention that matters is the intrinsic attention, which is already the case. It's not some attention you need to do or to not do. It's not some attention you need to muster up or somehow energize or keep focused or anything like that. It's not like that at all. It's just, sure enough, experience is present. Must be Saturday. Or Sunday or Monday or some other day.
Given that language isn't exact and can often be in the way, I'm more familiar with the word awareness, and I wonder if awareness and attention are kind of doing the same job, or do you
There's no attention and awareness. Attention and awareness are two words, and according to hair splitters, you could probably say they refer to two aspects of two things. But in actual fact, there's only one thing happening here, and it only happens one way. So awareness is it, attention is it, consciousness is it, presence is it, being is it. So all of these, there's no need to split hairs because it is a unity and it unifies everything. I mean, even unconsciousness and inattention is it. So, it's the default. It's the intrinsic nature, which is inalienable, which cannot not be. And and noticing is simply noticing that fact. And so it doesn't require any no, I have to notice it. There's something extra you're adding to it. The noticing is also in itself. So that's also intrinsic. So the whole thing is very paradoxical and weird. I mean, at first you feel like you're doing something, and after a while you see what a house of mirrors it is, and how weird it is, and how it's how it takes care of itself.
feel like they're on the inside and then the outside?
All this craziness, And after a while, you just let go of all that, and then you just don't give a shit, and that's what liberation looks like. But all you're doing is coming to where you've always been, but it becomes appreciated by being seen. Yeah, totally. It's sweet, easy, effortless, fun, calorie free, strictly medicinal.
So it sounds to me, Peter, like that's pretty much the extent of the practice, isn't it?
The whole shooting match. But having said that, there is absolutely no limit to the nuance and subtlety of the way this can present itself and the way in which it can engage itself. I mean, having said that's the practice, but you can and will do the practice for the rest of eternity, and you'll never repeat this. And it will always be astounding and surprising and full of revelation and nuance.
And that's effectively the payoff,
Yeah.
that nuance,
Totally.
and that layer of.
Yeah.
Because I've been wondering about that,
No, that's well put. That's a payoff. Because we live in an imaginary world of dullness and repetition and stuckness that doesn't exist.
well,
And
and
when you
suffering,
notice it
misery and suffering. And,
Yeah, all that. And it's all just because it's all imagined into existence over the top of this astounding, entertaining, comical, profoundly meaningful absolute spontaneity and liveliness that is actually it.
The greatness is superimposed. Did you just say that again?
Oh, the dullness, repetition, stuckness, all these things are imagined into existence, superimposed over the actuality, which is entirely spontaneous, entirely fresh, entirely lively, entirely meaningful and profound, entirely entertaining, and luscious. It's fulfilling too. It nourishes itself, it drinks itself, it feeds itself.
Say a bit more about meaningful experience. That you say meaningful.
Well, this is inconceivably meaningful, but again, the meaning is not a meaning on the human level, on the level that translates into human logic. I've said that this is basically made of or consists of pure intelligence, pure hyper-intelligence. And so its very nature, its very flavor, you might say, of what it is and the way it and how it is what it is, conveys and is permeated by this profundity, this meaningfulness, this inconceivable purposefulness that it intrinsically has and is. But again, nothing whatsoever can be said about that in human terms, except maybe poetically. And a lot has been said poetically. You can read sci-fi or poetry about the purpose of nature, or evolution, or stars evolving, consciousness evolving into transstellar, blah blah blah. But none of that is precise. It's all just evocative. But the real thing is right here, and it becomes palpable immediately, just upon, by degrees, just upon tuning into it. And then it becomes clearer and clearer and more intimately felt, perceived, you might say, engaged with, as one, plays with this more persistently. Anyone have any problems with any of this? Weird about any of this? If there's anything not weird about any of this, that's a problem.
Would be actually pretty entertaining. So.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah,
I have a really big
problem
fucking
with this
problem.
thing.
All right.
Who do I sue?
That guy over there by the door. It's his fault.
So when you say it's weird in comparison to, it's because it's so unfathomable to
Yes.
our mind. And yet when that is occurring and there's awareness of that, it feels very natural.
Well, it is very natural, and it feels there's a when you turn into this, there's a recognition, there's a sense of familiarity, there's a sense of home,
Yes.
there's a sense of this is me, this is normal, this is very familiar. So in that sense, it's not weird. But when I say weird, I try to indicate its intrinsic infinity and unresolvability and endlessness and open-endedness, all of which, again, from within a human logical framework, is really bizarre.
Unlimited potentiality.
Yeah, unlimited potentiality, sure, but palpably so. And so this is felt and sort of perceived and participated in to the extent one tunes into this. And in that sense, it's weird. The point isn't that it's weird and oh boy, it's really weird and it's weird. It happens to be characterizable as very weird, but that's mainly by contrast with the human perspective. From its perspective, the human perspective is absurdly weird.
Absolutely.
It's like, given that things are the way they are, how could anyone possibly imagine them to be the way consensus reality imagines it to be? Except by being totally insane, which actually happens to be the case.
Yep.
Normalcy is complete insanity. And generally unacknowledged. And when you turn into what this really is, you sort of begin to resonate with it, and its logic will permeate you more and more, and you'll look at the human perspective and go, oh, we all know that anyway. Everyone has a sense of this anyway. Everyone knows everyone else is nuts, but you'll notice that you're nuts too. And it doesn't really matter. Not particularly important, just an interesting fact. You know, to be a human personality is to be whacked, to be nuts. Comes with the term.
So it gives us permission to laugh at ourselves.
Right. I mean, one of the major aspects of all this symptomatically, the way it shows up, is self-importance. Goes out the window. You know, delusion. You know, it's technically in spiritual terms called delusion, i.e., you know, being absorbed in these interpretive frameworks, is full of self-importance and urgency. Everything really matters, and it matters because my life is so important, and my success and failure is so important, and my suffering is so important. You know, and as one begins to tune into actuality, all that stuff becomes completely laughable.
Self-judgment.
Yeah, all that stuff it deflates. You know. It's not, it won't necessarily cease, but it just diminishes in relevancy, it diminishes in urgency.
Tends to be, not, to me, as a shift has happened, it tends to not be here, it tends to be not attached to it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's an aspect of things, but everything's an aspect of things.
That's right.
And none of it has much importance out of context. And in context, it has no importance.
I'd be interested in hearing if anyone could put into words any of the subtle nuances they experience.
Did anyone experience any surprising or
Not surprising.
interesting or anything?
Well, it's not surprising, but last night I was sitting facing the bar, and that whole wall was full of multicolored bottles, and I couldn't help but think of just, you know, the glimmer and the glitter of, holy shit, you know, and it just was sitting there in materiality and immateriality at the same time. It was quite extraordinary.
That's actually that gives me that's a good jumping off point for me. There's lots of really fun tricks, many of which involve light, many of which involve other very available sensory experiences. But looking at reflections of light, looking especially, you know, the way light on a car window in front of you will reflect, and it should be this amazing starburst that just sort of. Next time you're in a situation like that, or go out in the sun and stand with a car so that you can see the reflection of the sun, you'll notice that the light comes off in a starburst that it's spaceless. It appears extended, it appears dimensional and large, but you can't say where it's happening. You know, it's not happening on the car, it's not happening between the car and you, it's not happening in you, it's just appearing. It's an apparition, and it's completely vital and alive and vibrant. Looking at sunlight like that, looking right into the sun is very interesting, but most people find it challenging in terms of things like eye damage.
Yeah.
But looking at the sun in these kinds of contexts where you get a partial reflection, like a little bit off of a car window. Or another real neat trick is, in fact, I did this at a retreat once, maybe a few years ago. You get a little polished stone, like a little black pearl or something like that. It's dark and shiny, and go out and hold it in the sun, and you'll see the sun reflected in it. But the sun that's reflected will be bigger than the sun than the size of the sun on the thing. In other words, it'll have rays that are shooting out, and just feel the presence of those rays in the way they're there, and it's surprising, it's startling, the way that shows up. I mean, it's a very clear and direct experience of radiance. Is something happening up there? I can't really see from this angle.
No, I was just going to say something. The Tibetans have a practice where let's say the sun is right there,
Right.
where they focus their eyes on one arm length below that sun point, so the sun comes in and they're looking here, they're getting the light in.
Yeah.
So that's another.
Yeah. Another neat trick is situate yourself so that there's a tree or the edge of a building or something, so that the sun is just behind the tree, or you can even use your hand, so that it's just blocking the sun, but get the sun up to the edge, and again you'll see all these rays and stuff coming out the side. And the texture of those rays is really, really interesting. And I mean, it's immediately and excessively transcendental. The way in which the light is, it's a delightful trick for getting into noticing very, very rapidly. Candles also. Candles will do the same thing. Yeah. Because again, the candle's there and it's burning, but there's more going on. And not in any abstract way, but palpably, sensorially, there's rays coming off and all this stuff. And just feeling what that's like, and feeling that presence and the way that it's there, the radiance of it, the liveliness of it, the sparkliness of it, is immediately accessible, I think, to the thought. But there's lots of tricks like that. Another really good trick is if you're standing in a situation on a sunny day where there's ripply water, like say you're standing on a pier or something like that, where there's water with lots of ripples, and you look down and catch the sun on all the waves, and you'll see, millions and millions of dancing, or however many, lots and lots of little dancing sparkles and suns, and just sort of feel the texture of that light and the dynamism of it. So, I mean, this stuff is palpably, there's a major wow factor in this stuff, and just letting yourself notice that, rather than just, oh yeah, it's pretty, the sun affecting the water, nice. Just let yourself really sort of tune into it, just feel the presence of that, feel the way it is that, and the sparkliness of it, and the liveliness of it. And again, it's so that it's an instant noticing. It's very deep. Very good.
There's something too, if eyes open and closed, there's something about the shimmer of things.
Absolutely.
It's in the eyes, but not in the eyes, and that just gets subtler and liver.
Yeah, all that. Well, those of you that have, heard a lot of my talks or whatever, you've heard me say probably many times, a really good experience too. This room is actually ideal for it. Is look at a fairly nicely illuminated black wall. Just gaze at it. Unmoving. Don't just sort of look at it steadily. Don't force anything. And just look at it for a while. And just see what appears, and just feel what's appearing in your field of vision in that present. And you'll begin to notice an incredible liveliness and sparkliness and dancing quality to it that spontaneously is there. It's very clear and obvious. And first you'll say, oh yes, it's some phosphenes in the retina or this or that. But don't worry about explanations or anything. Just feel the phenomenon and feel the quality of the phenomenon. And you begin to notice the amazing dancing and sort of amorphous quality, the patternlessness that is always present even within pattern. So anything you're looking at, no matter how detailed it is also full of all these sparkles and dancing qualities, even though we typically don't notice them or pay attention to them because the mind automatically senses them. Because we're very conditioned to go to, content. We're very conditioned to go to what we can talk about. You can't talk about all these great sparkles and stuff. But letting yourself notice these, again, is a way of sensitizing yourself to the subtlety of actual experience.
And you've also mentioned this in your hand.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then you can start getting into sort of extrasensory stuff too. You can start like seeing your aura. Or see someone else's aura. That's especially easy. And by that, don't try to turn it visual. Because for many people it's not visual. But just feel what someone's presence is like. Feel the flavor of it. And then feel someone else's presence. Feel the flavor of it. And feel something. Notice how, wow, you all feel different. Your aura is different. You can't not even say what that is or how it is or anything. But there's something there that is immediately palpable. And it's a way of tuning into, again, the sort of quality of content, quality of experiential characteristics that we ordinarily censor in our mind because we're trained to only, focus on and acknowledge what we can talk about, what we can think about. And this stuff is too weird, even though it's obvious. You sort of feel people's flavor. You're feeling their aura, basically. You're feeling their, and then sort of tune into it, really feel what's there, and see how much you can find it. And don't try to turn it into anything. Don't try to make sense of it or turn it into anything. a narrative. Just feel it. Just let yourself explore it like you're swimming in a sea of qualities, of flavors. Like you're tasting a stew you've never tasted before or something. And just see how much dimension and depth and subtlety you can feel there. You know? And again, the point of this isn't to find something particular. The point of this is just to let go of, to open your sensitivity, to let go of how profoundly subtle and multidimensional experience is. Everywhere, anywhere you look, any way you look at it. And, you know, because basically interpretive frameworks are essentially censorship. They're filtering, they're limiting, they're dumbing down, they're eliminating. You know, your actual experiential field in real time is literally infinite sea of qualities. And the mind, the consciousness spontaneously censors that and filters it down to typically to smaller, you know, bite-sized chunks that it can think about and put words on. And the rest of it is basically ignored, and ultimately it's a kind of a self-hypnosis where you don't notice you're experiencing it anymore, even though you are. So this is basically a kind of a sensitivity training, where you're letting yourself tune into some of these extra dimensions and extra richness that every and any experience actually consists of, that you may not be used to letting yourself notice. And again, it's cumulative, so once you open to all this, once you begin to tune into all this, it will just sort of continue to open and develop on its own, mushroom out. And again, it's just luscious. You just discover all this richness. You know, I joke, you know, again, some of you have probably heard me joke about it. After a while, boredom will be an impossibility. I can sit without a book in the doctor's office for 3 hours and I'll just be completely happy. Big fun.
Good training for the nursing home.
That's right, that's right. Yeah, that's the upside too.
We're gonna love that.
Would other people be willing to share what they experienced or noticed?
Yeah?
Would other people be willing to share what they noticed during our experiment?
And again, of course, most of what one can notice can't really be verbalized. But there's nothing wrong with trying to verbalize what can't be verbalized. That's what I've been doing all day.
Okay, so I'll start, you know, for what it's worth. I noticed sounds and I was asking myself, where is it? You know, is it, my mind wanted to say it was there, but I remembered it could be here. And then the other thing that I was aware of is the sparkles on the wall that I'm not used to seeing. And finding myself a little confused about here, because I had a supposed to go down. Well, am I supposed to be feeling emotions? Am I supposed to be feeling sensations? So that was my feeling. And I'd just be interested if anyone else wants to share their experience.
I was kind of free. It is what it is. Not to be right.
Good.
I just said it is what it is, whether it was distraction from the noise, whether it was movement, whether it was my mind jetting off somewhere or something.
Yeah, as you get good at this, you'll notice the incredible dynamism. I mean, you'll sit there and it's like Jesus, you know, slow down, you know, turn down the volume. It's all this incredible, incoherent jumping around and stuff. You know, that experience actually consists of.
This was actually just a couple days ago, but I was lying down and the mist was like foggy morning, but the fog was slowly burning off. And for like half an hour, I was transfixed by the intense subtlety of the swirling of these clouds, and I just went deeper and deeper into them. And it was sparkly, and so it was just the movement, and it was incredible. And then a little later, this will sound really weird, but I was having digestive distress, and I was looking at my skin on my stomach, and it was the same movement. It was this undulating, and even it was a mirror of what I had seen in the sky. It was just really
do this stuff for a while and become a real cheap date. Saying, wow, this is fun, isn't it? I'm having a great time. How about you?
There's a lot of practices try to train mind in concentration. That sounds like you don't find a lot of value in that.
No. There's nothing wrong with that as an experiment.
Yeah.
Try it. I mean, any experiment's good. But any experiment that's predicated on the idea of that you're developing the ability to do something that's better than something else you're doing is harmful. Because there is absolutely no hierarchy in this. There's no superior or inferior condition. There's no better or worse way to be with this. There's no truer or less true way to be with this. This can look like anything and it's all real. None of it, no one way is better or worse than another way. And that's the point of what, that's what you discover. And you discover it just by looseness. You discover it by just be with it all these different ways and you discover, yeah, wow, this can be all these different ways. But it's always the same. It never becomes more or less. Nothing is ever gained, nothing is ever lost. Whatever it seems to, however it presents, whatever it seems to appear. Which is very contrary to normal human thinking, where everything's very precarious and hierarchical, and we're trying to get ahead and improve this and get this and lose this, and all of it turns out to be a load of hogwash. It just nonsense.
I'm interested, Mary, too, in the take on the quantum approach. What it seems to me is that they're trying to explain these. They're trying to explain the shimmers. They're trying to.
I guess I don't know what that is.
Cool. Well, quantum physics, where
Oh,
they're
yeah.
looking into
Right.
lower and lower
Yeah,
levels of reality,
exactly.
time and space.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they're coming up against not being able to explain it. They
Yeah,
hope they
absolutely.
can, but up to now, it's all looking like mystery and dance and everything as I understand.
The looking is great, but again, they're hoping to get a handle on it. Which is fine as an aspiration,
Yeah.
but it's never going to work. There's no true way that this is.
Yeah.
There's endless discovery about ways that it is. I mean,
Okay.
science is great.
And they're discovering ways that it is, and
Yeah.
also at the same time ways that it isn't, that
Yeah.
coexist and all that.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, the closer you look at this, the more you will discover paradox.
Yeah.
The more you will discover intrinsic unresolvability, intrinsic divergence from itself. And the closer you look, the more clear and obvious that is.
Well, as you describe this, it occurs to me that all these different practices or things or ways of looking at this is, in a way of getting your sea legs in the existence of void. In other words, sea legs that don't require anything to feel that stability that is reality.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to look any way, so you're always in balance.
Yeah. You're learning to orient towards orientationlessness.
Right, orientational.
Wow.
And it's a form of getting sea legs. You begin to be so flexible that no matter what is happening, you're never out of balance. You never fall over, because apparent falling over is imbalance as well.
Well, what that consists of is you learn that what you are is not dependent upon being this way or that way. So as a result, there's no neediness, there's no urgency to, it's really important to me that things be this way and that not happen or something like that. There's a sense of, it doesn't really matter what happens. What I am is not going to gain or lose one little bit. And so you basically develop independence, which is again what liberation looks like. You're liberated from dependence upon conditions to be a certain way. Which means you just don't care. Who cares? There's no need for things to be one way or not that way. Because it just doesn't matter. So then things take their own course, and there's a relaxation and a happiness and a contentment that is just intrinsic rather than dependent upon circumstances and needing to be a certain way. Which is basically neediness, basically neurosis, sort of human normalcy.
matter that. Even your own temperament, things you like or don't like about you, are not a problem. Because they're also part of appearances of things. You can't blame anything. It's just,
Could you say a little more about that?
The things that we're used to identifying as ourselves, and hence as being particularly important, our personality characteristics and our qualities and our strengths and our weaknesses and all that, also recede in importance as we see that what this is, what we truly are, is not damaged by any way that our personalities happen to be, and wouldn't be improved by any fixing of those ways our personality happens to be. So all the sort of self-deprecation and self-loathing and self-image negativity, which is basically built into the modern, at least the modern Western personality, just diminishes and becomes irrelevant.
So this brings me a question that I've been holding on to, and that is, so I've heard a couple of different ways. There are certain things that where emotionally I can get hooked, that little thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've tried a couple of different ways. I could either say to myself, say, I'm feeling this hook, and then I can say, oh, well, I'm just going to change my focus. I'm going to just change where my attention is. I'll put it over here. So I've played with that. But then there's also this wondering about, I can say that feeling is not real, but it also seems like, to some part of me, it just seems like a repression.
Right.
And what would it be like? And I know you're going to say, well, then go try it. But so just bear with me. Going into the feeling and seeing what is that feeling and being with it. And I know that it's not uncommon just to want to run away from it if it's painful, it's something from the past, or as I'm talking about it, I just feel like I'm kind of blithering.
It's not blithering, but all this kind of relating to things as being a certain way and these having importance, like certain things feel this way because of certain things and so on and so forth, is still relating to your experience through an interpretive framework. If you're with the substance of what's present in any experience, it will transcend knowing what it is. So if you're really with a feeling truly, what is really present when you're feeling a feeling, you won't know what it is. You won't know that it's about the past. You won't know what it's about because what's there doesn't have those labels on, doesn't have those signs. So all that narration and interpretation and putting it in context has to be supplied by imagination. What's actually there, the energy of emotion itself, does not come with a sign on it, does not come with a caption or a label saying what it is. It's a weird energy phenomena of experience that's ultimately transcendental. But more simply, that's one way to do it. You can, it's quite possible to discover the transcendental nature of these things by being with their substance.
Being with their substance?
Yeah. What's actually present. So if you're feeling a feeling, what is it you're feeling? Not what is it in terms of interpretation or narration, but what I'm feeling something, so there's something there. What is it that's there?
So it could be a sadness.
No. So that's too much qualification. It's the feeling. If you're qualifying sadness, you already have it filed away and narrated and interpreted. You know what map it's in. It's just a weird object that is appearing out of nowhere that you have absolutely no idea what it is.
Right. So I'll be willing to just get right down to it. So let's just say there's this whole thing about feeling left out.
Right.
So that when if I'm imagining that I was left out or whatever garbage,
right.
So then an emotion comes up.
Okay.
And
how do you know? What I would say is, how do you know an emotion came up?
Well, I'm feeling it.
Okay, good.
Okay.
You're feeling something. What is it you're feeling? Not what is it by qualifying it, but look at it and what is it you're feeling. Something appeared, what appeared? And don't answer that question by narrating it, interpreting
So I
it.
can't say what the feeling is, like
No,
sad.
of course not. Because then you're not talking about the feeling, you're talking about qualification of the feeling.
Wow.
What is it how do you know there's a feeling there? There's something there. Feelings don't have, sadness doesn't say it's sadness. Sadness is just a flavor.
Wow. Wow, crazy.
See, that's one way. That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
But there's another way, which is actually simpler. Let me see how I put this. I find my personal approach is the best way to deal with the personality and personal issues is bypass them altogether. Rather than trying to solve them by going into the lion's den, go elsewhere. So like
How's that guy thing? I should ask.
well, let me continue. It may or may not be a guy thing, but let me give you the whole shit. Yeah, I'm not saying it's not a guy thing, but nonetheless, hear me out. So like the exercise we were doing today had absolutely nothing to do with personal stuff. It was like feel the presence of your experience, which is present regardless of your personal stuff or not, regardless of how you're feeling or not, regardless of your history or not, regardless of your emotional reactivity or not. But so you're sort of bypassing all of that. You're not denying it or repressing it. That's not what's on the table front and center. What's on the table front and center is this over here. Now, when you do that and you begin to develop facility at that, what happens is you learn a new perspective. And this new perspective turns out to apply not just to what you're looking at, in this case, say the presence of experience as a field, but it turns out to apply to all the contents of that field. So as you begin to discover the weirdness or the strange nature of actual presence of experience, all the contents of presence of experience readjust themselves in the perspective of the relative importance they seem to have. And so, this is what I was talking about a little earlier, where the sense of self-importance and urgency and narcissism that we're typically just completely embedded in, wallowing and swimming in this our whole life, basically, for most people, just begins to recede in relevance and importance. And it may even still be there, and you can look at yourself and say, boy, I'm a really self-absorbed asshole, aren't I? And you sort of laugh at it. But it's just an observation of a fact rather than an attribution of relevancy or importance to that.
Or simply, here's a little piece of my personal story within around.
Yeah, or whatever. But the point is that it's not, we don't need to not be crazy. We don't need to not be, damaged emotionally or scarred
We don't need to not.
by our imperfection. We don't need to not be that. We don't need to fix our problems. The fact that we have problems and the fact that we think they're so important is part of our cuteness. It's like
What? Cuteness?
cute. Yeah, we're cute. The personality is a lot like a pet. You know one of those little yappy dogs that follows you around. Yeah. So it's your pet, and you look at it and you go, oh, isn't it cute? You sort of annoying but cute. Well, the personality is a lot like that. The personality is annoying but endearing. It's, oh, isn't it sweet? It thinks this is so important, and it's getting all torqued up about all this stuff. And it's really concerned about its bad relationship with its parents and this and the other. Okay, isn't that cute?
But being a little bit
But it diminishes in immediacy and urgency and self-importance. It just becomes something that is observed to be the case, but it has no particular relative importance in the weight in the hierarchy. So the perspective shifts without needing to fix it or solve it directly head on.
Doesn't have that emotional hook.
Yeah, oh, I'm so glad I was sorry. But just going back to what Nancy's original, what I heard her saying, there's really no reason not to follow an emotion.
Oh, absolutely not.
One that you've labeled before always as negative, like
Sure.
feeling left out, or I mean, why not fall in love with that as much as anything else?
Exactly.
So it doesn't have to be. It's not like you have to sidestep it. At
No,
all.
you don't have to at
I
all.
mean,
There's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and they're all good. So basically, any mode of engagement with the actuality of presence outside the context of interpretation is powerful and valuable. And you can do it anywhere. You can do it within your personality, you can do it within emotion, you can do it within sensory experience, you can do it within anything, wherever it's easy for you. But it's a mistake to assume that it's more important or valuable to do it somewhere rather than somewhere else. Like, oh, I really need to work on my stuff. I need to work on my neurotic personality. I have to solve that before I can. It
right,
doesn't
which
matter.
paradoxically, see that kind of thought pattern is actually a shutting down and a contracting rather than an opening up.
Yeah, it's giving importance to an interpretation of things being a certain way, which is in fact inaccurate.
Yeah.
I mean, noticing is always about discovering that there's more going on than you ever thought, and it's different than you ever thought. No matter what you think is happening now, it's more than that, and it's different than that. Period. Simply because what's happening is unthinkable. And this applies anywhere you look. It applies within the personality, it applies within sensory experience, it applies within mental experience, it applies anywhere whatsoever within the experiential field. Wherever you look, that's the case. And so the trick of noticing, the trick of this yoga, is find that more and more. Find the way in which anything that happens to be your object of focus, to the extent there is one, transcends what you're used to thinking it is in every way. And it's different. Which it will be. So you can, by all means, look at the personality, look at sensory experience, doesn't matter.
So not to belabor this, but when you're in the process of, still being hooked by a couple of things,
Right.
It's, I don't know how else to say it, I mean, this is kind of where it's at, it's finding some method or technique to
No.
fill in the blank.
No,
That's where I'm
this
going.
is not about solving problems. And if there's a problem, it's not about coming up with techniques to solve it. You can do that all you want, that's fine, but that's not in the category of this yoga.
Yeah.
That's just in the category of normal function. And by all means, function normally as much as you want to.
No, I really want to understand here.
Yeah, this is not about solving problems. This is not doing something to fix something. This is about discovering that there are no problems, and never have been. So you don't need it. As long as you fix it on fixing problems, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because you're already defining there are problems, when in fact there never have been and never were. So you're already stacking the deck against yourself. And mind you, it's fine to fix problems, but that's not within the scope of this yoga. So, by all means, fix your problems, by all means work on yourself, by all means, work on your emotions, by all means, quit drinking and join AA or whatever, or take up drinking,
Or not.
whatever gets you through the night, that's all good. But that's just about living life, and we're all already experts in that or not. we're all already experts at flailing our way through that. But this is about undercutting that to what it really is.
What it really is.
What all that really is.
There was something you said at a satsang I was at that might be relevant to Nancy. You say it better than I. But it was someone who's faced with a problem. And Peter said, right, and that's the problem, and that's what's there. And notice that there's a whole lot more going on than just that problem. And you don't need to push the problem away. This is what I took from it. And there's the wall, and there's the light, and oh yeah, there's the problem. And that has been extremely useful in terms of just, it feels like something that's like this ends up like a tennis ball out of an English bay. It's there, but I don't know where I'm going to be at the end of the month in terms of the place to live. And there's just this expansiveness that was very, has been very
Yeah, no particular phenomena have any particular importance, and they seem to gain importance as we sort of zoom in on that kind of tunnel vision of like, and then that's what it becomes the big thing that really matters and we get all excited about. Whereas in actual fact, all particulars are small. The field is vast. What you actually are, the field of your experience, is inconceivably vast and multidimensional. And any particular phenomenon you can possibly think of or talk of or even indicate is tiny. So noticing is just about noticing that fact. And again, it's not saying don't address your problems. If you have a problem, by all means, address it all you want. But that's neither here nor there. That's not what is undefined. That itself is weird. That itself is baseless and bootstrapping itself out of nothing. I mean, here is your experience present, full blown, the whole thing, right? It's just, here it is, right? You see it? This is it. Where's it coming from? What's doing it? It's just poof, it's here by magic. Your entire history, your entire life, your entire past, your entire future is just here. You know, I mean, Tinkerbell may have just waved the magic wand as far as you know. I mean, right? It's just completely weird. And in that perspective, you begin to appreciate the weirdness of it. Actually begins to enable you to appreciate what it actually is.
I think what apparent problem I seem to have is feeling like there's a reference point, like there's a separation,
Right.
limited,
Yeah.
little me,
And see, that's fine.
that is actually vulnerable
Right.
to everything.
Right. Well, it feels like it's vulnerable and it can feel like it's there. You can look at that and see where it is, see how it is, see what's actually there. What is the reference point? You know, where is it? Where is it really?
Well, upon investigation, it is, especially here, it's just, it's nothing.
Yeah, none of this stuff stands up to scrutiny. So the trick is to look at it impartially to see what's actually there. And you will discover it's not what you thought it was. It's not nothing necessarily, it may feel like something. It's like, I'm supposed to have no focus, and I feel like I have a focus. Okay, I feel like I have a focus, but look and see what focus is, and you discover focus isn't really focus, it's something else entirely. Something that's very weird. It doesn't need to not exist. You just need to discover it's not what you think it is. It's not that you're not localized, but just discover what localization actually is. And you
It's a
discover
constant, though, for me, it's
Yeah.
a constant coming back to the presence.
Yeah.
I mean, that isn't even right to say that.
That's okay.
You're remembering that it's just this, it's always been just this.
Sure.
And I'm constantly reminding something, consciousness is reminding itself, this isn't limited, this is, it's all this.
Well, that's cool. You have that in your experience, so that's great. You know, strategically, the best way to approach all this is don't approach it as a solution to something. When you're trying to fix something, when there's a stuckness or a localization, and you're trying to fix that by getting to this, which is beyond that, you're undermining the whole thing.
Don't use this to fix
Do
something.
not use this to fix anything. This is not a solution to anything. It's an eradication of everything. Which turns out.
I want my money back.
It says here.
Well,
No,
that's really at the heart, like wanting to fix things. I mean, I completely relate to that.
sure.
But it's
Well, we all
at
do.
it's at the crux of the illusion.
Exactly.
It's totally at the crux, and that's why I think it does. It's why we all want to talk about it. Like,
Well, that's the
You know?
juice that keeps the soap opera intense.
Yeah.
You know, my life sucks, and it sucks because of X, Y, Z, and I really want to fix that. So that's why I'm looking at spirituality.
but you can't have a hopeless story. There has to be like, yeah, and I can fix this,
Yeah.
and this.
But
yeah.
all of that entire soap opera feeds itself and energizes itself. It bootstraps itself into existence with its own self-importance. And it's not solved by solving it, and it's certainly not solved by finding a solution to it. it's solved by looking and seeing what's going on here, but you discover that it's nothing. It's nothing, it's a house of cards. It may or may not be there, but it doesn't have any particular importance in any way.
So one thing is, I'm thinking about emotion, and it just seems like there's a fundamental, first of all, there's a fundamental bias that we live with, that there's good emotion and there's bad emotion. But to me, more and more, it seems like emotion is really mystical. It's totally mystical, even if it seems petty, if it's coming up as petty and small or angry or whatever, that it's full of everything. Yeah, energy.
Well, it is that. Emotion is funny. Emotion is always any emotion that is this or that or the other, is always in association with an interpretive frame. It always has a reason. You know, I feel such and it's about such and such. Even if it's in some vague amorphous way that you can't put. There's always a sense that the feeling is about something, and so there's something, and so there's a whole complex structure that basically exists in your imagination alone, that defines the emotion, defines the context the emotion exists in, the reason it's there. You know, my father was an aggressive alcoholic jerk who dissed me as a child, so on and so forth. Oh, that's a big story. And also I feel like crap. And I feel like crap because that's true, and the whole thing just sort of feeds itself and sits there. But all of that is just only an imagination. When you look at what's really present, which is what this yoga does, look at the presence of experience, you discover that experience itself is intrinsically undefinable. I don't know what my father was. I don't know what he felt. I don't know what anything is. I don't know what I feel. I don't know what these emotions are. I don't know what it's about. So it all, that entire defined structure, which seems to be this, that, and the other, to some degree, it's a cloud. It's just, I don't know what it is. And that's what it really is.
I totally am following you. I guess what I'm trying to get at, poorly, is that first there's the feeling.
Right.
Forget about all the crap that you layer over the top
Right.
of it, the little house you build out of it. Before any of that, there's just the information, just like with your blue shirt or whatever.
Right.
It's that free form. It's
Yes.
that, and the minute you say something on it like,
Right.
oh yeah, this is sad. Ooh, I know. And now I need to do my little sadness thing or whatever. You've stopped
Yeah.
instead of. I mean, I don't know. I think what I just heard you say was that emotion is always attached to an interpretive framework.
Yeah, here's a way to put it, which just says very, very more concisely exactly what you said, which is that raw experiential information is really present.
Yeah. Could you say that again?
Raw experiential information. The presence of experiential energy is radiant presence.
So,
And radiant presence is that. So
so
the order of radiant presence is noticing the presence of raw experiential energy. And when you notice that, you'll have the surprising discovery there's nothing but. All this superstructure and definition and all that doesn't actually exist. There's nothing
there's
other
nothing
than
there.
there's nothing other than color and quality and flavor and vibe and mood.
Well, that right there is the reason to notice. I mean, I think it's worth noticing if, especially the ones that we tend to immediately put that really bearing framework on the top of.
Noticing eliminates all problems without needing to solve them. But since they're eliminated, they're solved.
Right. Right.
So you're not addressing problems, but you're solving them by discovering they don't exist.
Right.
By undercutting them to the raw phenomena of experience, which is all they actually are. Experience is not what we think it is. All the interpretation is just layers of imaginary icing on a non-existent cake. But
to say that emotions are mystical, you can say the same thing about every sensation. Emotion is just energy. It's just there's been a habit, if you will, of focusing on them as though they're personal, they mean something. But the fact is that they're the same as a stomach ache or a sound you hear. There's nothing different and more mystical about emotion than any other experience of being. It's all mystical, if you will.
Well, that's actually what I was trying to say, because I feel
And
like
it's all
there's a bias against emotion, like it's something that needs to be put down rather than just experienced as
Well,
the same as everything else.
it's very simple. Emotion isn't emotion. Emotion is radiant presence. As soon as emotion is emotion, then you're defining it as emotion, and it's not actually that. There's nothing here right now, ever, which is right now, than radiant presence. Period. And noticing is noticing that fact. And then emotion, psychology, life, interpretation, it's all just radiant presence. So who gives a shit what it is? It's not that, it's radiant presence.
So that's fascinating. I mean, that just kind of blew me away. Emotions are no different than sound or a stomach.
Exactly. Or the color of this shirt.
That is effing crazy.
It's experiential energy. It's
What's
raw
that?
experiential energy mysteriously appearing, which is the very essence of radiant presence.
So again, it's the story I overlay over whatever these feelings are that's coming up, because I recognize these feelings from the past and I felt them before, and here's the story, and that's the imagination.
Yeah, and even that you recognize them from the past is a story. Because in actual fact, every instant of experiencing them is a completely unique event and has never happened before. If you look at the nuance of what's actually there. Because nothing has any persistence or stability whatsoever.
Baby steps.
Look close, you have to look close. Like the wall. Sit and look at the wall for 5 minutes without moving your eyes, and you won't be able to find anything whatsoever that stays the same for any 2 consecutive instants.
So I can remember emotions that I felt as a kid.
Yeah, you're remembering them, but that remember is imagination.
Oh.
You're creating them. If you look at the real-time experience of emotion, it's always a unique sensation, experiential quality, which is always unique each instant. And if you experience a moment, say oh gosh, I'm feeling an emotion I've been feeling for the last half hour. Let's suppose I just said that, right? If I looked at what exactly I was experiencing for the last half hour, every instant would be unique, would be different, the preceding instant and the following. So you look at the actuality of experience, you discover absolute dynamism, absolute instability, and no persistence. Nothing, no experience lasts for any length of time. Look at someone's face and see what it looks like from moment to moment. You'll feel like someone dosed you with acid or something after a while, because you'll see all this morphing and
Much less year to year.
I mean, it's subtle, it's nuanced, but it's across the board.
I'd like to bring the question back to a different kind of problem, which is the person who was going to be evicted at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
That seems different to me qualitatively from experience sadness or left outness. And what I hear you saying is that this understanding the nature of reality is a different kettle of fish from dealing with whether you need to go look for a job. That you can bring them into overlap and you can notice how, well, anyway, I'll stop talking and I'd like to say, I have some ideas that
Sure. I mean, mundane issues are actually radiant presence. They're not what we think they are. So suppose I was going to be evicted at the end of the month. That's a story. I don't know what's going to happen at the end of the month. I don't know what's going to happen the next second. I don't know what my experience the next second is going to look like. I certainly don't know what it's going to look like at the end of the month. I may or may not be in a situation that I could describe as being evicted, but I don't know that I am. I don't know what it's going to look like, and I don't know what's going to happen. I may want to do something about that projected possibility. And I may or may not succeed in doing something about it. But all of that is always ongoing aspects of the ever-present fact of experience actually being what it is in the moment. I don't know if I put that very well. Another way to put it is that the interpretation of what seems to be happening is always an interpretation of experience in the moment.
You might choose to do something about things that appear to be happening or not.
Sure. And you don't know,
And it's already.
and you don't know if it's going to work, you don't know if it's not going to work, you don't know if you need to do it or not. It's all an ongoing improvisation.
And you're choosing or not choosing to do anything is already in the present.
It's already in present.
As well.
Yeah, all normal human functioning is actually transcendental radiant presence. And it's not an either or. It's not like don't function, don't get a job, don't get money. But on the other hand, if you don't want to function and don't want to get money, something will happen. You know, people live on the street. It's doable. You know, and you don't know it's bad. It might be better. But who knows? But the point is that something always happens. Experience is not going to stop. Even when you die, experience is not going to stop. You don't need a whole dozen articles of faith. You'll find out for yourself. But probably before very long. We all will. And so that's a given. Cool. But something always happens from moment to moment. And what's actually happening always transcends your ability to describe it. You can't say what's happening now. You can say, well, I'm at a talk and I'm standing against a wall and having a conversation. That's true as far as it goes, but how much, does that include everything that's happening in the field of experience? You know, does that include this particular leaf in the tree? Does that include the light in the sky? Does that include, So what's really happening is always completely transcending any interpretation of it. So these partial stories of, oh, I have this problem, I have to deal with that, may or may not be true as far as it goes, but it doesn't go far at all, and you don't even know if it's true, because you don't know what's going to happen, because you don't even know what is happening. Even if whatever's happening now, you can't get a handle on what it is. You can't know what your present experience is in terms of describing it, interpreting it. What's happening here now? What's it leading to? You should be trying to say precisely exactly what's happening. I mean, you can start coming up with labels. Oh, we're having conversations. It's a spiritual talk. I'm getting tired. I'm bored. And my butt hurts. You know, because I'm really excited about so-and-so that might happen next week. You know, whatever, right? And is that happening now? Well, kind of, partially. But it doesn't inclusively at all include what's happening now, which is completely transcendental. And yet it's actually, what's happening now is it's exactly what it is, but there's no way you can get a handle on exactly what that is. So it may include it may or may not include all these sub-threads that we can imagine or describe, but those are always little shavings that are, you know, minuscule and hypothetical and tentative compared to the actuality. And reality is made of actuality. Reality is not made of narrative.
So people really struggle letting go of their story. I mean,
Yeah. And this approach is much simpler because you don't need to let go of anything. You just see it's non-existent. It's a seeing. It's a seeing rather than a needing to do. You don't need to let go of anything, or you don't need to achieve anything, or let go of anything, or do anything, or not do anything. Just see. And the seeing is always right here, right now. You see this right here, right now, and you will immediately see that it transcends everything you've ever thought of. So all the rest of it's hogwash.
Well, it seems to me that yesterday I was driving down the road and I was thinking, I know where I'm going. I've got a destination. I could just watch these spontaneous. I think, wait a second, I'm going to be honest. I think I know where I'm going. I think I have a destination. What's really going on here is all these blanks and patterns and stuff, which I have I'm hoping it to be the road moving blank. And all the rest of it is just my thoughts and my ideas about it. So it's the raw experience that totally changes it, and yet doesn't change it.
And the only thing that's ever here is the raw experience.
But the bandwidth just is much wider.
Yeah. Bandwidth is vast. It's inconceivably vast. And it's exactly what it is. And it completely is incredibly transcending anything you can possibly hold it
When you said this yoga is not a way to solve problems,
right. Well, it solves all problems, but it's not already
Well,
solved.
no, that's it. Is that you scared me to death when you said that, because it's been my experience in my limited ability to notice that when I do that, it's kind of magical. My problems either sort of mitigate, if not, have a tendency to like disappear or
Right.
evaporate
Yeah.
or dissolve. So the question that I have for you is about happiness. I've been doing a lot of this stuff in an effort to, I don't know, be happy. I want to be happy, or
Right.
at least not be miserable, or
Sure.
not suffer.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Is that wrong?
Yes.
Or is it suspect as a motive?
Yes, it's wrong, because the reason it's wrong is because you have some fantasy about what happiness actually consists of, and that fantasy is wrong. So simply by doing that, you're orienting to a fantasy, and by orienting to a fantasy, you're undermining the noticing and feeding the fantasy. Whereas if you just ignore ignore happiness or not happiness, and just do noticing, you will discover the true happiness, which is utterly beyond anything that anyone can imagine as happiness.
Is that even remotely possible, man?
Which?
To ignore, the potentiality of results, or not be results oriented, or is that?
Yes, and this is good. This is good. Ready?
That's
This is good. Look at this. Look at this. This is the master trick. You ignore orienting towards results by ignoring the fact that you are not ignoring orienting towards results.
Say it again. Say it again.
If it matters that you're orienting towards results, you don't try to not orient towards results. You just see that the fact that it matters that you're orienting towards results doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So orient towards results all you want, but it doesn't matter that you're doing that, and then notice. Whatever you're doing is cool. Be an obsessive asshole. Be fixated on your.
That's twice in 2 satsangs, Peter. You called me an asshole.
Not you. One. I'm projecting. I'm sure. It must be. I'm the only one here, so I'm talking about myself.
Of course.
No, you're actually talking about me.
No, it's not me.
But see, this is a real trick. You don't stop orienting. You don't stop orienting to orientation. You see that it doesn't matter that you're oriented towards orientation, and when it doesn't matter, it no longer matters that you're oriented.
Okay, can I say it more simply?
Please.
You just always notice what's going on, whether it's a thought
Yeah,
or you're
what she said.
oriented. What I said, right?
Yeah.
I scored.
So in other words, oh, I'm really fixated on wanting to be happy. Okay, cool, check. Now, what's happening here? Right. And then whether or not I'm oriented towards wanting to be happy is irrelevant. Because what's happening here is what's happening here.
It takes the foreground.
Yeah. Another way to put it, you can put it in kind of a logic tree of okayness. So I feel unhappy. Okay, I'm not okay with feeling unhappy.
No, that's not it. What it is that when I notice, I feel better, whether or not it's coming from a starting point of being unhappy.
Right.
When I notice then I'm happy.
Right.
It's not a way to cure unhappiness.
Oh, well, then what's your problem?
No.
Well,
Well, cool.
he was just
I'm with
making,
you.
he was just making comment.
Maybe I was right about it.
I suspect that there's something more to it, right?
Yeah.
Because you're,
Yeah,
it feels to me like there's something more to it.
yes.
You
No,
just got this.
no. There's nothing more to anything. Noticing sweeps the table clean. Noticing strips away all complexity. There's just the raw presence of the raw characteristics. And everything, the this and the that, and the the before and the after, and the motive and the this, they're just like bang, they're just like clear the shit, sweep it off the table. Because just this naked presence of all of this information is the only fact, the sole fact, and it has no narration, it has no interpretation.
Yeah, I wasn't referring to that.
No, I really don't think there is. I'm just trying to get to. I've always been suspect in my motives.
Well, we're all very devious. We should be suspect.
Yeah.
We're all villains.
Why am I doing this stuff? Why
And why am I doing it to myself?
Yeah. So, on one level, it seems like I am doing this stuff, in an effort to not solve problems, just to be happy. And, my initial question to you was, is that wrong? And, well, of course, the answer that I got was that it is.
It's not wrong. It's just irrelevant.
Ah,
Bingo.
yeah.
Noticing renders everything else irrelevant. It renders all facts and figures irrelevant. It renders everything other than noticing irrelevant. By revealing that what's happening here renders everything else irrelevant because it's all just imaginary interpretation. That you're trying to be happy and that you're oriented to this because of that, blah blah blah, is not true. And in noticing that is clearly displayed. Which paradoxically feels really good, so then you get happy.
That is paradoxical.
Yeah. This solves all problems without solving any problems. So if you ask me, does noticing solve problems? I'll say no. But it solves all problems. But not by solving problems. It solves problems by revealing that there never were any problems. There could not possibly be problems. Problems are imaginary because the actuality of circumstances is not such that a problem could possibly exist.
Okay, and when I believe that, when I buy into that, then son of a bitch, I'm happy.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cool. Sure we did.
And so our resistance to not buying into that then is coming from just the makeup of the human, that's what this thing does.
It comes from investment in self-importance, investment in relating to ourselves and defining ourselves in terms of an interpretive framework of who I am and what my life is and what's important. All of which happens, of course, unconsciously, subliminally.
I'd rather be right than happy.
Of course. That's the glue that holds delusion together, it holds suffering together. And noticing undercuts that without even addressing it. Because if you go to raw experience, you discover none of that is relevant. It's not even not true, it's just not relevant. Yeah, I'm a dysfunctional, neurotic person, and I always have been and I always will be, but I'm transcendental radiant presence, so who cares? It's just not the important fact, and in fact it's not even a fact. There's only one fact, and that fact is radiant presence, within which there is no imperfection. There's not even enough coherence for there to be any conditions, let alone perfect or imperfect conditions. Radiant presence is sole condition and it has no subconditions because it's absolutely incoherent. It looks as if it could be coherent. It's like the ultimate Rorschach blot. It looks as if it could be all these intricate subsystems interacting, but there's no subsystems here whatsoever. It's all just like flickers. And in noticing, you go right to that level of phenomena, and that's just known. It's self-evidently known.
You say here, if there's no resistance, then we can begin seeing reality happen as it is, because we're not invested in the outcome of doership.
Mm-hmm.
And there was somewhere else where you said something about resistance creates the world.
Right.
If those are connected, can you maybe just elaborate?
Sure. Well, resistance is based upon defining conditions sufficiently to hold them to be a certain way and if they are a certain way, that you can like it or not like it, resist the way certain things are, and want things to be another certain way. All of that's predicated upon the root condition of being able to define things sufficiently to determine that they are a certain way so that you can then react to them. Noticing undercuts that because you discover that the actual raw experiential characteristics don't exist with sufficient coherence that you can define what they are. If you can't tell what a system is, how can you tell if it's good or bad? How can you tell if you like it or you don't? And even if you like it or you don't like it, you can't. Suppose there's something and I don't like it. I feel a dislike for something, right? But even that dislike, I can't know what it is because when I do noticing, that there is a system and that I dislike it and that I'm disliking that system doesn't make any sense. So I don't know what it is. So the fact that I dislike it doesn't matter. It's still irrelevant.
And hold on. And is it all a story anyway?
Yes. All. Anything that's anything is a story. Even that it's radiant presence is a story. It's not even radiant presence. But it is what it is. And here it is, check it out.
This is fucking.
Yeah, it is. Check it out, you can see.
But the story is radiant presence, irradiating, just. Yes.
Well, I'm getting dizzy. I don't know about you now. Oh, no, I'm good.
What's that? You're not feeling well?
No, I feel good. It's been a long day. That's a good thing.
You asked for the blood.
I blame my enabler. Things were going along fine until you started pumping me full of drugs.
Whatever it takes.
Get you properly. Well, we want you to be well rested.
No, I'm good. We can go for a little while more. So anyway, we've been circling around back and forth and coming hither and yon, approaching the same thing. It's very, very, very simple. This that is here is as it is. By simply feeling that it is here, it reveals the way in which it is what it is, which completely and utterly undercuts anything you think it is. And hence removes all that is relevant from your life. Very, very simple. So there's infinite subtleties and ramifications to that, but the essential fact of it is extremely simple. Simply feeling this that is here. Does that act of feeling it is a transcendentally intelligent engagement with transformative meaningfulness that will work its magic. That's the entire theory and practice of yoga and radiant presence right there. So all the complexity and this and that, what about this, what about that, it's just aspects of that simple.
So this is going to sound kind of silly, but coming into a moment, I mean, just bringing myself more into a moment, whatever is happening. If I'm ticked off about something, if I'm thinking everything's great, I mean, it's
just feel this here. Feel this actuality. This is here now. It doesn't need to here now. Just feel this. Feel the isness that is. And bang. That's everything. All the rest of it is irrelevant.
and it doesn't have to be anything special, like,
No, absolutely not. makes its own gravy. It does. It shows up the way it shows up, and it's irrelevant.
That's incredible.
Doesn't matter what it looks like.
Or feels like.
That's what. Yeah. So it's just the simple fact of feeling this, the actuality of this, undercuts all relational conceptual orientations, which is where all our problems
I would say something. An experience that I had last week with that was a sense of waking up in the morning and just, nothing feels right, everything feels off, nothing's working, everything's horrible. It's like, so then I find in my mind's going, well, what's this about? So I start searching, oh my God, I would have been married 43 years today if I had, that's what's wrong with me. I'm upset about that, whether it was right or wrong, or the person or whatever. It was like a part of me seemed to just feel justified and feel so much better that I could find a reason why I felt that. And it was just so crystal clear to me that I just had to laugh. It was like, how, because I could just watch my mind trying to find something going on, and it was just no thing. It was just no thing. But I have that sense of wanting to hold on to myself and my story and who I think I am, and that ego resistance to what is.
And you don't even need to not do that.
No,
it's not a matter of not trying to not make stories, trying to not interpret the mind's going to do that.
Yeah,
It's
why
going to just
not?
do that. You just watch it and laugh.
Yeah.
But you just feel this presence, and the fact that it does that all the time, and the fact that you're a crazy person who is doing this,
All the
leaping off
time.
into this insanity all the time, becomes laughable and irrelevant.
Becomes almost charming.
It does. It does. It's cute. I think of it as cute.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cute.
I think the machinations of little Peter is kind of amusing. Isn't he cute? Thinking of he's getting all upset about such and such. How sweet.
But that willingness to pull ourselves out of that present awareness, it's just and maybe just noticing that, how willing I am to just be diverted from what is.
And even if you are, you're not actually diverted. And you don't need to not do that. Just touching it and well, this is here. Wow.
Yeah, the beauty of non-judgment is that.
And you don't even need to be judgmental of the fact that you're judgmental. You can be as judgmental as you want, and you can be non-judgmental about that. And then you're not judgmental, no matter how judgmental you are. You undercut it all. You don't need to not be upset about being upset about being upset about being upset. You just need to not be upset about that. And you can have all this being upset all you want. Just don't be upset about the last stage, and then it's laughable.
So it reminds me of, a year or two ago when I was on the ferry and there was just this asshole on the ferry. I very rarely get this angry. He was just a jerk. I got in the car and I walked the ferry and I'm thinking about what a jerk, what an asshole, how unfair. And then it was turning into this story about how he must have this horrible life, he treats people like that. And then I watched it. I'm watching all these thoughts, sort of this fantasy build about what a jerk he is. And then watching that, and then it turned to, oh man, I was so tight in the neck, and all the body that was contracting. And then my attention's turned to that, and then pretty soon, I don't know, I started to relax, and then it's like, oh, well, okay, that was interesting. So it's just what a lesson.
Yeah, the machinations of our warped personalities and our demented minds is just fascinating to see.
Yeah.
We get all twisted up about this, that, and the other, and then this whole big storm happens and it passes, and it's like, what was that?
But even just the body sensations, which are totally divorced from mental stuff.
But the whole gestalt, the whole system just sort of bends
But
around.
what's more fascinating is when you know you're going there and recognize that you are and say, never mind.
So why don't we do our last little 10 minutes here? Let's do a little noticing, shall we? Just don't do anything special. Just relax. Just feel. Feel what's here. Whatever it is, just feel what's here. This that is here, just feel it. It doesn't come in parts. It doesn't come in pieces. Even though it has all of these qualities that show up. Here it is. What's it feel like? What's this feel like? This feeling. Notice how you're always feeling it. You can't not feel it. How can you not feel being? How could you possibly not feel the presence of experience? Always here. You're always feeling it. Just feel it. Feel like. Touch it really intimately. Just really let yourself explore it by braille. Really feel what it is that's here. And consciousness just feel the texture of experience. What is experience? What's it feel like? Feel how intimate it is. Its very presence is feeling. What's it made of? What's experiencing made of? What's its texture? Very, very fine, isn't it? Very, very delicate. Just relax. Be easy, there's nothing you need to do, no special way you need to do. You don't need to be precious with it or doctor with it. It's not going anywhere. You can't push it away. You can't damage it. Just feel what is here. No matter how you are with it, it's right here with you. It's right here, just feel it. Presence. You feel what presence is. It's completely obvious. It's present. What is that? How is that? What is presence? Doesn't matter where your attention goes. Doesn't matter what you notice, what you're looking at, what you're thinking. It goes right here, isn't it? Experiential feeling. Right here. Magically, just here. It never goes away. How could this possibly happen? Experience be perfect. It's a journey. Notice how slippery it is, drifting around. Focus of attention, slipping here and there, drifting around. Hearing this, seeing that, feeling this, thinking that. And yet it's always right here, it never moves, never recedes. Always completely present. You witness that, it's completely the same present. It's feeling it. Doing anything special. Don't even need to try any moment. Just whatever you're doing, you can just feel this presence. I am here. This presence is here. Experience is. You just feel that. Just feel it. Just feel it. Astounding fact. Inconceivable fact. Everything happens. Crazy. Wish you a good evening. I hope you have a lovely time. And those of you that I'll see tomorrow, I'll see you tomorrow. And anyone I don't see tomorrow, have a lovely time tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you. We leave stuff here.
I think so. Maybe I was from Peter. Do people leave things here? So maybe locked up and stuff?
It'll be locked up.
Oh, great, so we can just leave our cushion.
You might not want to leave
I think I'm
anything
gonna
very valuable.
I'm
But
gonna
the cushion is probably going to be fine.
I just went. Yes, Yeah, right.
Well, nice to meet you, Jeannie. Maybe I'll see you again sometime. You too. Yeah. Good. They are.